Indica versus Sativa. Which one's your favorite? All types of marijuana are the same species, that's cannabis. But there are a few different subspecies, and that's cannabis indica, cannabis sativa, and cannabis ruderalis. Now, the main two are indica and sativa, and all these groups can interbreed with each other. In fact, most commercial strains are known as hybrids, which is a combination of indica and sativa. But each of these groups does have its own characteristics that sets it apart from each of the others. The first group are the indicas, and indicas are derived from plants that developed in Central Asia between the 25th and 35th parallel. This area has a temperate climate, which means the sunlight is going to be much shorter, the day is going to be much shorter, and there's going to be much less direct sunlight. The sunlight is going to come in at a much lower angle, and that's going to cause the plants to grow to be much smaller and bushier. They're going to put much more of their energy into growing the leaves rather than the stems. They're not going to grow very tall. They're going to try to make their leaves as wide and broad as possible. The leaves are fat and they overlap with each other. This is to get as much sunlight into the plant as possible so that it can use photosynthesis as a means to create its own energy. Indica plants were originally produced to have very high resin contents. That's because they were used in hashish making, especially the Kush variety, which is a subgroup of indicas that come from the Hindu Kush region in northern Afghanistan, Pakistan, and India. And the hashish was very common in that area at that time. And back then, it was very uncommon, if not unknown, to smoke the flower. The flower was not actually smoked until it got to the Western world much later on. The high caused by an indica strain is going to be more of a body high. It's going to be more sedative. It's going to be more relaxing. It's going to kind of wind you down. It's going to kind of cause an immobile or couch lock feeling. It's going to be great for the end of the day. It's going to be great for whenever you want to wind down and relax. It's real good for anybody who has high levels of pain, or if you're someone with insomnia, it's going to really help you get to sleep. Sativas come from plants that originated in areas where the weather is really warm and there's lots of direct sunlight. Areas like Mexico, Colombia, Panama, Nigeria, or Thailand. These areas are going to have really long days with long periods of direct sunlight, and they're going to also have really long growing seasons. This is going to allow the plants in the sativa group to take their time maturing. They're going to be able to slowly develop over a much longer time. That's going to allow them to grow taller, put much more energy into stem production, and not have to worry as much about leaf production. The leaves are much thinner and spaced further apart. It's because the sunlight is so plentiful in these areas that the sativa plant is able to do that and still get all the energy it needs from the sun. A sativa high is going to be much more of a head high. Its effects are going to be much more psychedelic. It's going to make you feel a little bit more dreamy or spacey. It's going to have much more of a energetic effect, uplifting. It's great for anybody who's got high levels of anxiety or depression. It's really going to lift their moods. This is going to be partly because of the high levels of THC in the sativa strains. They also have a high THC to CBD ratio, which can also make it kind of intense for beginners. Ruderalis is more of a wild or feral strain. It's not really bred much for consumption because it has very low THC amounts, but it does kind of get interbred into certain strains in order to create an auto-flowering strain. I'll talk a little more about the plant life cycle in another video, but basically marijuana plants will go from vegetative growth to flowering growth whenever the light cycle starts to shorten. Basically, whenever the days or the simulated days get shorter, it triggers a response in the plants that causes them to start flowering. But Ruderalis and the strains that have Ruderalis bred in to make them auto-flowering will just automatically start flowering at a certain point in its growth. and will do that without any kind of signaling from the light. So that way the grower has less to think about, less to worry about. But then it is also going to have that Ruderalis strain in there, so it's going to probably take down your THC content. Like I said earlier in the video, most strains that are commercially grown are going to be hybrids. They're going to be some sort of intermixing between indicas and sativas. That gives the breeders the ability to take out the best characteristics or the most desired characteristics from both the indicas and the sativas and kind of put them together in one strain. There are lots of strains that are going to have a pretty even mix between the two, but I'd say that most of them probably have a tendency towards one or the other. That's going to be all for this video. I just wanted to make a real quick video discussing the differences between indicas and sativas before we have our trip to Colorado coming up very soon, so make sure you guys subscribe to this channel. Make sure to give this video a thumbs up. Until next time, guys, let's grow.